Hello and welcome to In a Flash, a weekly photo and video news show from around the lens. We've been off the air for quite some time, but we're back and we're ready to give you the news. I'm your host, David J. Murphy.
And I'm Travis Keys.
And here we go. Let's just get into the news. Our first story deals with the Sony Alpha 1. It's been released and it's been out there in the wild, and people can get their hands on it. It's a new $6,500 digital camera. Not micro four thirds. It's a full frame mirrorless camera from Sony. It's their latest, greatest. It can shoot 8K. I think was it 45 megapixel stills. I'm probably wrong about that. Let me just throw it over to Travis, who's the Sony expert. Travis, tell us about the Sony Alpha 1.
The Alpha 1 is their truly a flagship. Coming in at $6,500. This is a beast of a camera, and it's sort of like one ring to rule them all. I mean, it is shooting 30 frames a second. It's a beast of a camera. It's not for everyone. I mean, everyone's kind of like, oh, I can't believe they made a $6,500 camera. It's like, well, you know what? When Nikon's flagship and the D1s and the Canon worlds and all of those were out, they were $6,500. But this camera does amazing video. It does amazing stills. It's really just an exceptional camera. And Sony has just been like, this year is like, would think the pandemic is like, it would slow down for them. They've released so many lenses. They've released, and just quietly on top of the A1, I don't know if you know this, but they just quietly updated the A7R4 and the A7 III to an A7 IIIA and an A7R which they've increased the LCD resolution from like 1.4 million dots to, I believe it was like 23 million, not 23 million, 2,300,000 dots. And they both, they updated the USB ports to USB 3.2, which is that ultra fast. It's slightly down because of the higher resolution on the screen for the battery life, I think like 10 shots or something like that. But, and they put out pancake lenses that are like 2.5, on the aperture that are really small and light. They put 3 new ones out. Sony is just killing it with releasing tons of stuff at a time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sony has not been slowed down at all, as far as I can tell, by the pandemic. Who knows? Maybe they have been slowed down. Maybe they would have had the 6 more cameras out this year if it weren't for the pandemic.
Well, I'm sure the A7R5 and the A7R4 are not far behind to be launched at some point in the near future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They've been very productive. And, the Sony Alpha 1 is definitely, again, like you said, they're going for that flagship territory. They're going for those super duper high end market of mirrorless cameras. And, it shows, they've got a 50 megapixel sensor. So I was wrong there. Up to 30 frames per second shooting for 8K, no overheating, which of course, has been the big sticking point with like the Canon R5. And it can shoot 4K 120 frame per second video, and it can also do 16-bit RAW video output. So it's really just a beast of a camera. Like I said, it's not.
And I've seen the 8K video and I've been able to play with it, and it really is beautiful. I mean, I've seen people doing some beautiful work on it. I know a couple little people are kind of upset that a $6,500 camera came out, and now suddenly they quietly release a new version of a higher screen onto the A7 III and the A7R4. So people are kind of a little upset about that. Like, why didn't you do that? I should get a free upgrade or something like that. But this is what happens when technology pushes on. It happens.
Now, trust me, when they come out with the R5C or R5S here, like later on this year, probably, that doesn't overheat and, has an unlimited recording limit, I will definitely be very pissed at Canon. But no, I'm loving my R5. It's a great camera, but, get a little bit of envy from what Sony is pushing out. But obviously, like I said, this camera is not for everybody. And, this camera would not be for me where I'm at. And I don't know how, there's certain definitely markets that would definitely appreciate a camera like this. I don't know if you're one of those either. This probably wouldn't be in your ballpark, I would imagine, right?
It's funny that you say that, because it's like I have a lot of different cameras, from the A7R3, the A7R4, the A7 III. So I'm sort of thinking like maybe it's time to kind of sell off 2 of those and get the A1, because it's right in that sweet spot of what I do in terms of not only just video, but the what you can do in terms of still photos is incredible.
Right.
It's an incredible thing. But what's funny is Sony is just really kind of doing amazing things. And just recently, I don't know if you know this, that the White House just released the official portraits, and they were shot on a Sony. The official White House photographer is named Adam Schultz, and he's using Sony A9 IIs, and he just recently did two portraits, and you see Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden, and they were shot on the Sony A9 II, the Sony lens, the 85 1.4 G Master, and they're really beautiful portraits. What do you think about that? I know that you have some actual inside stuff, having to wait and rely on those portraits for a reason.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I work in a section of, the government where, we are supposed to put those portraits up on the wall. And so we've been waiting for those official release of the portraits ever since, President Biden was elected. And it usually takes a few weeks to a few months in order to get the actual official portrait. I remember back in the day waiting for President Obama's portrait and then President Trump's portrait. And so whenever that's released, it's kind of like, okay, good. I can take care of that one little thing I'm supposed to be doing and get those photos printed. And I remember back when President Obama was elected, and as soon as his official portrait came out, the first thing I did was load it up into Bridge and look at the metadata, because they put like pretty much the raw image out there. And it was neat to see. I think it was shot with the Canon 5D Mark II. It was definitely shot with a Canon camera. So it's interesting.
And typically, then that's a good point. Previously, most of the White House photographers have used Canons or Nikons.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what President Trump's was shot with. I didn't look at the metadata for that. Do you remember? Was that ever
offhand? I don't remember actually, but I don't believe it was a Sony.
Okay, maybe an iPhone for all I know. I don't know.
It was a different time then.
Using the portrait mode. But no, yeah, Sony has definitely been, this is a sign of the times. It's a sign of Sony's integration into and permeation into all facets and forms of photographer that, again, a photographer would trust their brand and their cameras enough to use it on such a extremely important subject. The president shows a lot of trust and confidence in the camera system. And so I am proud of and happy for Sony to be kind of elevated.
Well, it's been such an exciting year. I mean, you look at Fuji putting out their GFX S, 100 pixel medium format camera. You look at Canon putting out the R5 and R6 and Sony putting out their stuff. I mean, there's just so many great products out there nowadays that it's really, someone says, "Oh, what camera should I get?" It's like the one you really like. What's going to work best for you? There's a lot of good stuff out there.
Yeah, and again, I think the photographer, had their pick of the litter with regard to the amount of options to shoot this with. You had so many great cameras out there, from Canon to Sony, Nikon even. There's a lot of good lenses and good glass and good camera bodies. I think, probably gave Sony the edge was its permeation within the news field now because of the contracts with AP. And also just it's by this point, it's had a chance to really build out a very wide, vast library of lenses. Whereas, some of the other cameras that have taken the mirrorless format a little bit later are still building out those camera lenses. And I know Canon has some good low aperture glass, some good high speed glass. And, I think Nikon is working on it and whatnot, but still, Sony, I think, has the more robust library of mirrorless glass at this point compared to its competitors. So, yeah, makes sense to go with that camera.
Yeah.
But portraits look great. I'll be printing them and posting them on our wall here soon. So glad to see those finally released. And with regard to things that are released, maybe I'll put one of these portraits up and sell it as an NFT. Is that NFT. Legal? Can I do that?
Jump into the NFT game.
I know, right? Can I take a piece of public domain work like, a president's portrait and sell as an NFT? Can I sell something that's not mine? Probably shouldn't get into that road and go down that rabbit hole. But what is an NFT? Well, it's a non-fungible, I forgot what token. The T stands for. Token.
Non-fungible token.
Non-fungible token. So basically what that means, it's non-fungible means like one of a kind.
Yeah.
And token is, I guess, with regard to its crypto roots, crypto origins. And so it essentially allows me to sell you a photograph or ownership of a photograph that is accessed on the blockchain
Hmm.
and kind of denoted and whatnot. And it has that archive and it has that sort of proof. And you can now have it and own it. You can own a digital good, even though it's out there in the world and anyone can look at it, right? Pretty much. Did I get that right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's based on cryptocurrency and the marketplace and stuff like that. And you have a whole thing that's kind of this virtual world. It's like it's like it's supposed to be a one of a kind, and people are kind of really jumping into this. And a lot of people feel like, oh, I can make millions on this, or it's like jumping into cryptocurrency. There's pluses and minuses, and we'll see where it goes, if it's a fad or if it's not a fad. A lot of people are kind of upset because the power it takes to mine and for these kind of things, they find it a waste of resources, and it's not like it doesn't exist, because it sort of exists because of all the computer power and what it takes to kind of have these in the virtual world. So it's a very kind of odd thing. And one of those things, like if you're going to jump into this, you really kind of have to do your due diligence of kind of doing it. Is it good time to do it? Yeah, probably. It's like, but you have to at some point kind of be in the crypto market, and I think you have to start an account and be in the cryptocurrency market. But there's some people making money off of this, and some people are making $500 to $1,000, which if you're selling 5 or 6 of those things, that's a lot of money for a lot of people. Yet some people are making a ton of money on this, but it's one of those things. There's no clear cut answer on what you're going to do, and it could be fun to look into right now, but really look into it. I don't recommend jumping into like, oh, I'm going to make $1 million off NFT. It's like, really do your research on this. It's kind of one of those things that there's a lot of ins and outs and gray areas of it. So it's very important to kind of look into it and do a lot of reading and see if you know anyone that's really kind of played with it.
And I think for people like us, who create artwork, with our cameras, I think it's a great opportunity to potentially find another income source, another revenue source. And like I said, you may not be a millionaire, but there's nothing saying you couldn't put on, one of your photos and make like 100 copies of it for $50 a piece or something like that. And those people who are interested in you as an artist can definitely, it allows them to invest in you
Yeah.
specifically, because the NFT, the value of it, and everyone hopes, when they buy the NFT that it goes up and they can resell it on the market. Its value is directly tied to you and your continued work and popularity as a artist.
Yeah.
So,
and I know some people are worried, it's like, oh, what happens is, because it's like, oh, you own that one exclusive kind of digital, well, it is the only one, but,
right.
And some people are worried about copyright, and the copyright still is retained by the photographer. So there's not an issue there.
Yeah. No, and I think, if you are someone who might be interested in this market, it's definitely worth looking into, because there's very little risk. All you're doing is essentially putting up your artwork for sale. You're making limited edition prints, if you will. If you want to kind of correlate to a real world corollary, is you're making a set of 100 prints and you're selling those numbered prints off to people who want to bid on them, the highest bidder.
Yeah, and it's like it's for very getting in the very low. It's like you look at the gallery market where they take 30, 40-50% of your sale. With this, that's not going to happen like that. It's so a lot of people are kind of excited about the potential of making money, and even if you're making imagine just selling 10 photos for $200 or $2,000 in a month or 2 months. For many people, that's a huge amount of money, and that's life that makes the living much easier. So if you can take advantage of it and figure out your place and to do that, I think it's pretty cool.
Have you considered entering this market? Have you looked into it yourself?
I am definitely looking into it. There's no doubt. It's like, we all kind of look back on things like, man, if I only bought a couple Bitcoins early on, or if I only, invested in Mac, or, if I only invested in Apple, it's like, or, these things. So, I am definitely looking at it, and I don't even know if at this point it's too late, but I think it's right at that peak, so we have to kind of look at it right now. So yeah, I'm definitely looking at it. And, just, speaking of, things to, mine and make virtual, I have a Mac M1, which is, I don't know if you have, are familiar with the M1 chipsets, but this is only about 6 months old. And of course, that I buy one, they're already talking about the M2. The M2 is going to come out, at some point. I don't think it'll be out with the next, because the next PowerBooks will probably have the M1 chip, but they're looking to put the new M2s, which is basically taking like a 5 nanometer chip and making it a 4 nanometer chip. And it's probably going to be, faster and better. And what they can pack onto these chips and the way they've been performing is incredible. If you look at Linus from Tech News and people like Marquise Browning who have done some extensive tests on these, they're really performing well and really kind of changing the atmosphere of the whole landscape of computing and what people are doing with chips and stuff like that. My M1 that I bought, I got the 13-inch, was the perfect size. It does not replacing my full like studio gig where my desktop that I built a custom PC rig, but it's for me. I wanted something that literally I could put in my knapsack or a bag that still could perform well and have long battery life. That really was kind of something that I enjoyed working on, and that it hit the sweet spot for everything that I wanted. And I'm not having problems with running Photoshop or running Lightroom. Yeah. It's really, I've really enjoyed it. Have you had a chance to play with any of the yet?
Well, they have some display models up in the store that I go to, and I've touched them, but I haven't done any extensive testing with them. But I've seen enough videos of people who've done testing with them to know that they are basically magic in a box in terms of what you can do with them and how they sort of handle video editing and stuff like that. And so again, I've considered potentially maybe getting one, but I'm holding off because again, I like you, I have a desktop PC rig that I only bought like 2 years ago. Yeah. That I spent like a couple $1,000s on. So I want to get the most out of that. But I have an aging MacBook Pro from 2014, which will have to be upgraded at some point. I don't know when I'll upgrade it, but that is something where I'm definitely considering, if not the M1, the M2, M3. I mean, that's the great thing about this new chipset series is it's only going to get better from here, and the growth potential or the ability for it to get better is limitless. I mean, look at from the iPad like from 10 years ago to the iPad today, and that's been an integrated system on a chip for so long, and it's just you can do anything with the
and when they're putting these M1 chips in the iPads and stuff like that, those iPads are just going to be mini MacBook Pros. I mean, they're just going to be it's just the capability is awesome. I mean, they're really well done. The only thing that like I'm really just not a fan of with Mac is like once you buy it, that's it. You're not upgrading it. There's no changing it. Like people ask me, oh, should I get the 8 gigabyte RAM or the 16 gigabyte? I'm like, buy as much as you can because you will never ever be able to upgrade it. So I mean, that's frustrating, but it is what it is. And people are like, well, why'd you buy now, or why didn't you wait for the MacBook Pros? I'm like, well, the 13-inch was a perfect spot for me, and when those 14 inches come out, and the new Mac Pros, they're going to be a lot more money than I wanted to spend anyway. So the 13 was perfect for what I needed.
And sorry, you went for the Pro over the Air, right?
I went for the Pro and not the Air. There was just, there was not enough price difference in the Air. The Air was just, like, why get the Air when you can get the Pro? And it's like, it just was better suited.
Okay. But, do you see yourself upgrading to the M2 when that comes out, or do you think you'll hold on to the M1 for like a longer period of time?
It all depends. I mean, if it's working well for me, I mean, it's a great size. It's portable. The battery life is great. I mean, if the M2 is to that much more stellar, and who knows, maybe the M2 will become a desktop replacement that I could just travel with and plug in when I get home to a dock or something like that. If that's the case, that's kind of exciting. But I like having both worlds. I have a full PC rig at home, and it's nice to have the Mac because there are a lot of people that still have Mac, and Mac doesn't play well with PC and all that stuff. So it's nice to be able to kind of work on both, and if I need to.
Yeah, when I was considering the M1 series, I was looking at the desktop, the Mac Mini, I guess.
Yeah, which is a great price. I mean, geez, if you don't have to travel with it, that is an incredible option.
Even if you do have to travel with it, it's like the size of a big. I mean, it's not even that big to travel with. You can throw that into a backpack.
And they make a little a little dock station that's got SD in it, and all these ports that literally are
Yeah.
this. It's made the same size and it just fits under it. And I'm like, ooh, that's really kind of cool. You can add to hard drives and all kinds of stuff. So you could actually buy the a 512 SSD and add the stuff. You don't have to buy the 1 terabit or something like that. You can really buy something for the home station, which works really well.
I could see myself taking that with me on travel, plug it
Yeah.
into hotel TV,
Yeah, absolutely.
keyboard, mouse, and I got a whole
It's a
little
giant
workstation
Apple
going on
TV.
there. Yeah, exactly. So definitely some interesting stuff in the future there. So looking forward to seeing how that all pans out, and we'll probably be following that space. And another space I'll be following closely is this one that's actually have been following. We have been talking about this back on the old Around the Lens show, is the latest, greatest details with regard to the case against Andy Warhol and this photographer, Goldsmith, Lynn Goldsmith.
Lynn Goldsmith. Yeah.
Yeah. So she and Andy Warhol's estate have sort of been battling each other because the Warhol, the artist himself, used a photograph of hers to create a piece of artwork. And so there's been this back and forth in different courts and whatnot. It'll probably be, again, this is just the latest, greatest step in this, but she has won. This is the latest appeal, basically saying that no, Andy Warhol's art is not, able to do whatever the artist cannot do whatever they want with someone's photograph. There is still copyright in this country, and you can't just take somebody's photograph and make artwork out of it and say, oh, well, look, I created a new piece of thing, pay me for it, it's my copyright now. So this is great news. I think if you're a photographer and you want to protect your work from others who might be using it, there has to be some sort of essentially discussion and dialogue between you and the artist, and there has to be a licensing fee if that's what they want to do. Or again, the artist doesn't get carte blanche to do what they want with somebody else's work, and call it their own and say it's hey, I'm going to sell this now. No, there has to be some discussion and dialogue, which the way it should be, But
super, super important to us photographers. And I love what she wrote on her GoFundMe page. She wrote, yesterday, the Second Court of Appeals is issuing their ruling. And she put, we won. All visual creators, especially photographers, can breathe a bit easier, can sleep now knowing the clear ruling of what is fair use of their work, which is fantastic. And this is the one step that you can't get to a higher court other than the Supreme Court, which I'm sure it will go to in this ongoing battle. But these small victories are big for us, and this is really good to see.
I would look forward to seeing this be actually deliberated in the Supreme Court. So if it actually goes up there, hopefully it doesn't have to, but again, if the Warhol estate wants to take it up, they can take it up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of different cases that are similar to this, and we see those kind of being played out. But I think it'll set good precedent. If you are a photographer and someone is using your work, you can now kind of point to this and say, hey, buddy, hey, bucko, you better pay me for my photograph, or, whatever, or I own your artwork because you used my photograph without permission. So definitely.
I'm a gearhead tech person. I love my drones and cameras and stuff like that. There's a new drone out there. It's called the Power X, and it's a weatherproof drone, a camcorder, and a webcam all in one, which is kind of crazy. And it's in this weird shape of an egg. And I am a huge fan of DJI, even though I hate their customer service, but I'm a huge fan of their products. And
what's wrong with their customer service?
I've had nothing but bad experience with trying. I've been an early adopter from the Phantom 1 to Phantom 2 and I've had issues where my drone is sat getting fixed for months at a time, or they released something that the firmware bricked my thing early on, so I tried to get it back to them, and then it just sat there. I mean, and trying to get someone on the phone, or now they have it like sort of the Apple Care, where if you pay a little extra, you get priority service, which is fine, and that's good. So it's a little better that you have that now, but in the past, it's been an absolute nightmare, so much that I don't take the time to sit down and write and say I'm gonna spread the bad news of what you're doing. I did that with DJI. I mean, I was so upset with them and the way they handled things. But this new one from Power X, which is
Power Egg X.
Yeah, it's Power Egg X is it looks like an egg. It looks like something out of Fifth Element, like you would see in that movie. But it's kind of wild. It looks like, it's its own little handhold little gimbal. It's got little wings that come out and flies. It's got cool little things that like little attachments so it can land and take off from water. There's a lot of things going on with this, and it has obstacle avoidance and AI powered to follow and do all kinds of stuff, and sound, tying into your iPhone. I mean, it's got a lot of stuff going on. And what's amazing, it's $799. So it's a really competitive price for this. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I tell you, when I was looking at the promo video for it, I was like, this thing is complete vaporware garbage Kickstarter that'll never come out. And then I looked a little deeper. I'm like, oh, you can actually buy this now?
It's there's a link. I saw it on Adorama. It's actually being sold.
$800 on B&H Photo as well. So yeah, I mean, it seems too good to be true, but it also seems like the jack of all trades, master of none, type situation. Like, yeah, it can fly as a drone, but is it going to be as good as DJI's drone? Is it going to fly as well? Is the connection going to be as good? Sure, it could be a camcorder.
They're saying 3.5 miles or something on this, which seems to me insane.
I would have to get it in my hands and try it out myself, which I'm intrigued by. I think, again, it has a lot of versatility. I've used my Mavic Air drone as sort of a little video camera. I've held it in its collapsed state, and I could move it around like a little.
I think some people have even designed little things that you can attach to it so you can walk around with it as
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is an intriguing piece of kit. I like the modularity of it. I think that is one of its probably biggest selling points. So if you didn't already have a camera that, if you don't already have like 5 or 6 cameras that already meet these needs, then I think this would be a good first starter camera for sure. And, you can go start with the drone kit and then move up from there.
It had some fun little features too. Like you could put it on a tripod and the AI will actually like follow you around. So, you could be a one person kind of shooting. So like I could set it up and walk into a scene and it will actually follow me and track me and do different things. So it's got a lot of cool little things going on to it. Besides the funky little crazy little shape of it, I'm interested in checking it out.
Yeah, no, I definitely would have to check out some more reviews to see if it would be something I would add to my kit. But I could definitely see, like my Mavic Air Pro or Mavic Pro, it was the first one that came out, the collapsible drones. So it's getting up there. It's getting a little old, getting a little rusty. I actually have to replace the blades on it because they've been so chipped and deteriorated over time.
And there are a lot of secondary, second party, third party carriers that make blades that are quieter or stronger or more lift, and so there's a lot of good options out there to look at.
Yeah, I just want to get some DJI issue replacement. I know they gave me some when I bought the drone initially. I just don't know where they are. So I'll probably.
That's funny. I remember when I first started flying, I would have to order extra propellers because I crashed it and would chip the blades and do all that stuff. And now I've just the thing is so reliable and taking off and landing and flying that I've had the same blades on it for a while now, no issues.
All right. Well, that's been In a Flash. I've been your host, David J. Murphy,
and I'm Travis Keys.